Welcome, deep divers. You know those moments, maybe listening to a commencement address where suddenly something just clicks? That feeling of clarity when, profound life lessons get distilled, often with surprising honesty for people right on the edge of something new. Think about J.K. Rowling's speech at Harvard, the one that became Very Good Lives. These aren't just like polite sayings. They're meant to be a compass, really, for navigating life. And the wisdom sticks around long after graduation day. So today, we're kind of doing our own commencement, our own deep dive into the exact themes that make speeches like that resonate for so long. Our mission, to pull out the most potent insights from a whole range of sources, Rowling included, of course. We want to give you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed on, well, three really critical areas: the surprising upsides of failure, the incredible power of imagination, and crucially, what it really means to live a successful life. We'll use some surprising facts, some great stories, weave it all together to hopefully keep you engaged and thinking.
And, these aren't just abstract concepts, are they? Things to just sort of ponder. Think of them more like practical blueprints, actual strategies for dealing with the real challenges you're going to face no matter where you are on your path. We're going to explore how those moments that feel like rock bottom can actually, maybe surprisingly, be the best place to rebuild from. We'll dig into empathy, that vital human connection, and how we can actively grow it using our imagination. And really importantly, we're going to challenge the usual ideas about success. Try to redefine it in a way that truly serves you, aligned with your values, not just what everyone else expects. This whole deep dive is set up to give you those aha moments, but, quickly and thoroughly. Real insight without feeling totally overloaded. You get the knowledge efficiently, yeah, but in a way that actually sticks.
Okay, so let's kick things off with something that, let's be honest, most of us instinctively try to avoid: failure. We often see it as just negative, crushing even.
Yeah.
It's natural to feel that resistance, right? To see setbacks as things to dodge at all costs. But what if? What if our basic understanding of failure is just, well, wrong? What if we're missing something important?
It's a very human thing, isn't it, to recoil from failure? A lot of people see it as an endpoint, like game over, or a sign that you're not good enough. But the fascinating thing is how we can completely reframe that. Brene Brown, she talks about failure as an opportunity for growth. Now, at first, that might sound a bit like, a soft way of putting it, something to make you feel better. But if you really look at it, it's a fundamental shift, a radical one almost. It's about seeing that failure isn't a dead end. It's actually a chance to learn, to adapt, to get better. It's not just saying, oops, you messed up. It's more like a signal, an invitation, really, to figure out what went wrong, why it went wrong, and then consciously use that information next time. It turns that perceived weakness into a future strength.
I think that's key, the idea that it's an active process, not just putting a positive spin on it, but like strategic recalibration. And there's this surprising, almost provocative point that Zig Ziglar made. He said, the price of success is much lower than the price of failure. It really makes you pause, doesn't it? We usually only think about the cost of trying and failing, losing money, the emotional hit, the time spent. But what about the hidden costs, the tangible and intangible things we lose by not daring to fail, by playing it safe? What do we miss out on by not even trying?
Exactly. That's the core of it, and it's so powerful. When you really consider the costs of avoiding risk, well, you're looking at a whole world of missed experiences, paths not taken, and ultimately maybe a deep sense of unfulfilled potential. Think about the brilliant ideas that never saw the light of day, the relationships never started, the personal growth that just didn't happen because someone was too afraid of messing up. That quiet regret, that little voice saying, what if? That can be far more damaging, far more costly in the long run than any single failure you might experience from actually trying. So the price of failure Ziglar talks about isn't just about losing a specific battle. It's the huge, often unseen cost of not living fully, not pushing yourself, not becoming who you could be. Staying safe, staying in the shallow end, that can cost you way more than diving in, even if you sometimes belly flop. Inaction has a price, often the highest price of all.
That reframing is so important because it's often in those moments when life really knocks you down, when you feel like you've hit rock bottom, that's when the strongest resilience is actually built. J.K. Rowling talked about this so openly in her Very Good Lives speech. She described her own failure, hitting rock bottom, and how it became liberating. She actually said, rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. That's incredibly powerful. Let's dive into some other stories that really show this process hitting a low and climbing back stronger.
Rowling's words really capture it, and her story is proof. Another really compelling example is Les Brown, an amazing speaker. He talks about facing what he called a truly crippling opinion early on. He was labeled mentally retarded by a teacher. Think about that label, the judgment. It could have completely derailed his life. But what pushed him forward wasn't just wanting to succeed or prove people wrong. He had this single, clear purpose: to buy my mother a house. That wasn't just a career goal like becoming a DJ, which he did eventually. It was a deep internal why, to use Simon Sinek's idea. It just shows how a really personal, emotional motivation can become this unstoppable force. It can override external limits, societal judgments, what everyone else thinks about you. It's like that clear purpose can turn weaknesses into strengths, giving you that solid foundation Rowling mentioned.
Yeah, purpose is a lifeline. That's beautiful. And then there's Zig Ziglar talking about his own early sales career. He was so honest about it, even funny. He admitted that for 2.5 years, even with help, he basically proved they had been right all along. He just couldn't sell. He even jokes the only reason his line about selling his car and furniture wasn't funny was because it was close kinship to the truth. Ouch. But that directness, acknowledging that initial deep failure, a real professional rock bottom, and finding humor in it, it makes it okay. It shows that even the greats face these huge setbacks, and that sticking with it beyond those first proofs of failure is absolutely vital. Early struggles don't define the end result.
And it's right there in those moments of rejection when nothing seems to work that your inner state really matters. Ziegler paints this great picture contrasting two salesmen facing rejection. The one with a poor self-image, he wallows in self-pity, right? Goes off to lick his wounds, maybe complains over coffee, makes excuses. His inner story is all, poor me, nobody loves me. But the salesman with a healthy self-image, totally different reaction. He gets that the prospect had a problem he couldn't solve right then. Not that he is the problem, not that he's a failure. That distinction is everything. So he immediately and confidently talks to another prospect, someone who doesn't have that problem or whose problem he can solve. It just highlights that resilience isn't just about what happens to you. It's an internal choice, it's attitude, and it's rooted in a sense of self-worth that doesn't crumble after one no. It's about separating the result from who you are.
That's really interesting. Brings up a big question, though, for all of us. How do we build that healthy self-image, especially when we're facing rejection again and again, when it feels like the world is just telling you, nope, not good enough, or your efforts are pointless? It's easy to say be positive, but going from rock bottom to real resilience feels like, well, like alchemy, a real transformation.
It definitely is an alchemy.
Yeah.
Forging strength out of adversity. Dale Carnegie offered a really profound insight here. He said that it raises one above the herd and gives one a feeling of nobility and exaltation to admit one's mistakes. He used the example of Robert E. Lee taking the blame for Pickett's charge at Gettysburg, a huge military failure, devastating loss. But Lee's willingness to own it, not blame others, turned that defeat into this moment of incredible character. It shows that vulnerability, when it's paired with real accountability, is actually a strength, not a weakness. Owning your story, even the tough parts.
And speaking of commitment through setbacks, Simon Sinek's story about the Wright brothers is just amazing. They went through failure after failure, crashes, broken parts, endless redesigns, chasing flight. Most people would have quit way earlier, right? But their deep passion for flight, their core why, kept them going. It wasn't about getting rich, quick, or famous. It was this deeply held belief, a purpose that drove them through everything: danger, skepticism, you name it. Their failures weren't stop signs. They were just data points helping them get closer.
Exactly. And Les Brown drives this home with really direct advice. Develop courage. Let yourself feel the fears that are holding you back and mentally push them aside. It is no fun to fail, but you must pick yourself up and get back in the race. He gets that failure hurts, that it's uncomfortable, but he stresses that you have to choose to keep going, to build that inner strength. It's not about pretending fear is there. It's about facing it, acknowledging it, and then deliberately moving past it, refusing to be paralyzed. That's courage in action.
And this brings us to that incredible analogy, the Houdini story, that both Les Brown and Zig Ziglar used. It's so powerful. Houdini claims he can escape any jail cell in under an hour. He goes into this one new jail, all confident, right? He works on the lock for 2 hours, sweating, exhausted, convinced it's the hardest lock ever. Finally, he just collapses against the door, and it swings open. Because, as the story goes, it had never been locked, except in his own mind. Wow. It just perfectly shows how often our biggest obstacles are the ones we create ourselves, and how sometimes that little extra push, maybe just out of sheer desperation, can open doors that were never really locked. The block was internal.
And right after that realization that the obstacle was mental comes another crucial step Les Brown talks about. Forgive yourself for your faults and your mistakes and move on. This isn't about letting yourself off the hook for messing up. It's about shedding that heavy baggage of insecurities and past experience that keeps us stuck, replaying failures. Without that forgiveness, that extra push Houdini needed, we might never even try it. We'd be too weighed down. It's about clearing the mental space to try again, unburdened, facing the future with fresh eyes. It's almost a prerequisite for resilience.
That links so well to Tony Robbins' idea about negative emotions being calls to action. He argues feelings like regret or frustration aren't there to punish us or stop us. They're signals, like an internal GPS pointing out what needs to change, what needs attention, where we need to adjust. So instead of getting stuck in regret, we can actually use those feelings as fuel for change. They're not meant to stop us, but to guide us towards a better approach, maybe reinforce our purpose or find a new way. It's about consciously using those internal states to drive action, not letting them anchor us down. Okay, so from failure, where resilience is forged, let's shift gears to something that feels almost like the opposite, but is actually deeply connected. Imagination. We often think of imagination as just kid stuff, right? Fantasy, dreaming, something we outgrow. But how does what we imagine, what we dare to envision, actually shape our reality? Not just for us, but for others too. J.K. Rowling hit this hard in her speech too. She said, imagination is not only the uniquely human capacity to envision that which is not, in its arguably most transformative capacity. It is the power that enables us to empathize with humans whose experiences we have never shared.
Yeah, Rowling really nailed the dual power of imagination there. It's way more fundamental than just daydreaming. Earl Nightingale put it very directly. To think rightly is to create. Simple as that. And he took it further, saying, we become like that on which our hearts are fixed. So it's not just wishing. It's the actual act of envisioning, of mentally building a future you want. That vision becomes the blueprint for what you do, the choices you make. It shapes how you change yourself. Imagination, seen this way, isn't just idling. It's the crucial first step in building your reality, inside and out. The silent architect, you could say.
That's a huge thought, right? Thinking is active creation. And Nightingale uses that classic analogy, the ship leaving a harbor, to connect imagination with purposeful action. He asks you to picture a ship where the whole voyage is mapped out and planned. Captain, crew, they all know exactly where they're going, the coordinates, everything. That ship, with its definite goal, its clear imaginative blueprint, reaches its destination almost every time 9,999 out of 10,000, he says. It just perfectly shows how linking imagination with clear, purposeful visualization massively boosts your chances of success. It's the difference between just drifting and actually charting a course. That mental map is vital.
And imagination doesn't have to be this totally random, unpredictable thing. It can actually be quite disciplined. Nightingale gave practical rules for brainstorming, which are basically rules for structured imagining, like no negative thinking, just get ideas out, don't judge them yet. The wilder the ideas, the better. Really encourage thinking outside the box, even if it seems crazy at first. A large number of ideas is essential. Go for quantity first, quality later. You need raw material. And combination and improvement of ideas, see how initial thoughts, even flawed ones, can be combined or built upon. These rules show how you can systematically use imagination for problem solving, for planning big goals. It's about creating a safe space for ideas to emerge before you start picking them apart.
So if imagination can be disciplined like that, how can we use those rules, maybe not just for solving problems, but for imagining, say, our ideal future self or our contribution to the world? Can we actually train ourselves to think bigger, beyond the obvious?
Oh, absolutely. It's like a muscle, right? Use it more, it gets stronger, more flexible. The applications are endless. And like Rowling said, it's not just about your vision. Imagination is the key, the bridge to empathy, understanding others. Think back to Cicero, the Roman orator. He said an orator absolutely must keenly investigate, really try to understand what citizens think, feel, believe, expect. That's a deep call for imaginative empathy. Putting yourself in their shoes, trying to grasp their world from the inside. It's essential for connection, persuasion, leadership. It's an imaginative leap into someone else's reality.
That makes me think of Dale Carnegie's story about President Taft, how he handled that disappointed and ambitious mother. She was really angry, apparently. But Taft didn't get defensive. He used what Carnegie called the enormous chemical value of sympathy. By just imagining her perspective, her hopes for her child, her disappointment, and responding with genuine understanding, he completely diffused the situation, turned hostility into rapport. It really shows empathy as this incredibly powerful tool in dealing with people, even when things are tense.
It really does show a deep understanding of people. And you see the same principle in that story Edward M. Sykes Jr. told, shared by Carnegie. Sykes was selling for Johnson & Johnson, facing this tough store owner. Instead of pushing the product, he spent 2 hours just listening, showing genuine interest in him and his problems. He said later he achieved more in those 2 hours than in 10 years of the usual sales pitches. It wasn't a trick. It was an imaginative effort to step into the customer's world, understand his struggles, build trust. That leap created a totally different, much more effective interaction. It's the ultimate people skill.
And sometimes connecting with someone else's struggle, their journey, can spark something huge in us. Les Brown tells this story about a woman, Shirley, who was just lost in despair, feeling hopeless. Her spirit started changing only after she talked with Audrey, a woman with an absolutely indomitable spirit, despite having a devastated body. Audrey's sheer resolve, her refusal to give up against huge physical odds, was so intense that Shirley said the courage that spoke out from Audrey's devastated body awakened her. It brought her to tears, broke through her despair. It's an amazing example of how seeing someone else's resilience and imaginatively connecting with it can boost our own capacity for hope and strength. Empathy can be contagious in a really good way.
And this imaginative openness isn't just for emotional connection, it's crucial for intellectual growth too. Tara Grove, in a graduation speech, made the point that our views would be more dull and less developed if they were not sharpened and tested by challenge and disagreement. This isn't just about tolerating different views, it's about actively seeking them out, engaging with them imaginatively, trying to understand the logic, the feeling behind them, even if they clash with your own beliefs. It's seeing disagreement not just as conflict, but as essential for growth, both personal and societal. Having the imagination to see where someone else is coming from, even if you don't end up agreeing, it's vital.
And Les Brown really brings this all together, doesn't he? Taking imagination beyond just personal benefit to this sense of duty. He says you are born with responsibility and the obligation to make a positive impact. So it's not just about what you can dream up for yourself, it's about what you can imagine and then create for the world around you. Understanding that your actions, born from imaginations and empathy, ripple outwards. It's about using your inner world to make the outer world better. Which brings us perfectly to our final section, and maybe the trickiest one: redefining success. We live in a world just flooded with images of wealth, achievement, constant comparison. It feels really important to challenge that standard, often materialistic view of success. Is it really about the stuff you collect, the size of your bank account, your job title? Or is it something, deeper, more internal, more lasting? J.K. Rowling certainly had to grapple with this, figuring out what success meant beyond fame and fortune.
Oh, it's profoundly deeper. And Rowling's journey is a prime example of having to redefine success on your own terms. Earl Nightingale offered this absolutely game-changing definition that just cuts through all the external noise, he said. The only man who succeeds is the man who is progressively realizing a worthy ideal. That's the key phrase, progressively realizing a worthy ideal. It completely shifts success from being a static thing you achieve, like crossing a finish line, to an ongoing process, an internal journey. Success isn't a place you arrive at and then just stop. It's the active, daily pursuit of getting better, moving towards something you decide is worthy, something aligned with your values. Nightingale uses examples like the school teacher who loves teaching, finds purpose in it, or the wife and mother devoted to her family, or the gas station owner doing exactly what he wants, serving his community well. These people are deeply successful, not because of money or status, but because they are deliberately moving towards their chosen ideal, finding fulfillment inside rather than just chasing external applause.
That definition, progressively realizing a worthy ideal, fits so perfectly with Simon Sinek's Start with WIY, doesn't it? He argues that real, lasting success for a person or a company comes from that deeper purpose, cause, or belief, not just what you do. Money, Sinek says, is never a cause. It is always a result of living that why. He uses the Costco Sam Walton example when that initial clear why of serving customers with great value got fuzzier. When the inspiration faded, some of the drive, some of the real success faded too. It really highlights that without that clear guiding purpose, external stuff alone just can't sustain meaningful success. The what might give short-term wins, but the why fuels long-term fulfillment.
And holding on to that clear why, that worthy ideal, whether it's in your own life or in a business, it demands clarity, discipline, and consistency, like Sinek says. It's not always easy. It takes conscious effort, right?
Yeah.
Vigilance. But that's what allows anyone in a company or just navigating their own life to make decisions as clearly and as accurately as the founder or as their true self would. It's about building the strong framework of integrity around your core purpose, making sure every action, every choice lines up with that ideal, even when there are pressures or temptations pulling you off course. It's like having a really reliable internal compass.
Okay, so if success isn't just about external achievements, if it's this ongoing journey towards an ideal, then the real measure must be internal, right? What are those inner changes, those shifts in perspective and character that really mark genuine success?
Well, right at the base, Zig Ziglar was adamant that a healthy self-image is the absolute first step on the stairway to the top.
Yeah.
That internal confidence, believing in your own worth and ability, it's paramount. Les Brown echoes this, urging us to realize that there is something special within you, a basic goodness. Without that core belief in your own value, independent of what you achieve, external successes can feel empty or fragile, like you never quite measure up. It's about building from an unshakable inner core. Knowing your worth isn't up for debate. That self-acceptance is the foundation for everything else.
That really hits home. And it reminds me of Les Brown's very direct, sometimes challenging statement. You don't get in life what you want. You get in life what you are. It's not about fate or anything mystical. It's a direct call for self-development. Authenticity. It means if you want to achieve your dreams, realize that ideal, you have to become the person who's aligned with those dreams, who embodies the values needed to attract and keep them, who has the character, the skills, the mindset to make them happen. It really pushes us to look inward first, to cultivate the being that will naturally lead to the doing and having. It's about congruence. Who you are matches what you seek.
And this naturally leads to a really powerful idea shared by both Les Brown and Zig Ziglar, something that totally reframes achievement. What you get by reaching your goals is not nearly as important as what you become by reaching them. Think about that shift. It moves the focus away from the external prize, the job, the money, the recognition, to the internal growth, the character you build, the capabilities you expand during the pursuit. The journey itself, with all its ups and downs, its failures and lessons, it shapes you, makes you more capable, resilient, resourceful, wiser. That transformation, that becoming, is the real lasting win. It's far more valuable than any temporary reward you might get at the end.
That's such a profound shift, from focusing only on the outcome to focusing on the growth along the way. It also speaks to the power of attitude control, as Zig Ziglar called it. He said, we can't tailor-make the situations of life, but we can tailor-make the attitude to fit them. He used that great analogy. Look back and you build an Edsel, a famous flop, but look forward and you build a Mustang, a symbol of success and desire. It just vividly shows how our perspective, the attitude we choose, shapes our results. His advice, when the outlook isn't good, try the uplook. It's always good. It's about the conscious power we have to choose positivity, choose growth, even when things are tough. It's an internal switch we always control.
And pursuing that internal excellence, consciously working on character and attitude, often means embracing discipline. Vince Lombardi, the famous coach, he noticed that there is something in good men that truly yearns for and needs discipline. He pushed back against the idea that work has to be a drag. He felt real satisfaction comes from disciplined effort towards something worthwhile. Zig Ziglar added to this, saying, there's no such thing as a lazy person. He's either sick or uninspired. Which suggests if you're feeling unmotivated, maybe it's not a flaw, but a lack of inspiration. And inspiration can be cultivated, maybe by associating with greatness, like athletes at the Olympics get caught up in an atmosphere of greatness. So discipline isn't some external punishment. It's an internal drive for mastery, fueled by purpose and inspiration. It's actually freeing, not limiting.
Right. So it's clear that this redefined success, this progressive realization, isn't just a solo mission. It really extends outwards, connecting us to others, to contribution.
Absolutely. Earl Nightingale famously said, no man can get rich himself unless he enriches others. And that's not just money, it's any kind of abundance. Zig Ziglar put it maybe even more directly. You can get everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. This points to this fundamental law of exchange, but also the deep satisfaction that comes from genuine service, from focusing on helping others achieve their goals. It acknowledges that our own success and happiness are tangled up with the success and happiness of those around us. It shifts things from pure competition to collaboration, where success grows when it's shared.
And that connects beautifully with Tony Robbins' point that humans have this deeper need, beyond just avoiding pain and seeking pleasure, a need to commit to contribution. It's not just about getting something back. It's a higher kind of fulfillment, moving beyond just looking out for, number one, to finding purpose and making a difference for others. It's an innate drive for significance, leaving a mark.
And that contribution, that whole journey towards a worthy ideal, it's usually boosted and sustained by community. Tara Grove, in her speech, emphasized that we're fundamentally communal creatures. She stressed the need for a few friends, people you can share experiences and hopes with. Individual success, she suggests, is often made possible and certainly easier to maintain within these supportive networks. They help us hang on to this vision of possibilities when we face challenges. It's a great reminder we're not meant to go it alone. Our strength often comes from and is renewed by meaningful connections.
And finally, just thinking about the long-term view of this kind of success. Quintilian, the ancient Roman teacher of rhetoric, he painted this picture of a retired orator. He imagined this person after a life of purpose might bequeath the history of his own times, or interpret the law, or compose some treatise, or give worthy utterance to the sublimest ideals of conduct. It gives this powerful, long-term perspective. Success is contributing wisdom, values, knowledge, a legacy that goes way beyond personal gain. Success measured by the positive impact you leave for generations to come, inspiring others long after you're gone. Wow, what an incredible journey today, deep divers. We started in the scary place of failure, but found it's not an end. It's actually a beginning, a forge for resilience, purpose, self-knowledge. Then we explored imagination, not just dreaming, but a vital tool for empathy, creation, planning our future, both personal and shared. And we really challenged the standard definition of success, shifting it from some external finish line to this ongoing progressive realization of your worthy ideal, driven by inner purpose and contribution.
Exactly. And by consciously engaging with life, by accepting responsibility, by cultivating that courage Les Brown talks about to face fears and setbacks, we really can expand and free ourselves from our own limitations.
Yeah.
Remember that Yale study Tony Robbins mentions, only 3% of grads who wrote down clear goals dramatically outperformed the other 97%. That just shows the sheer power of intention, of having a clean vision from your imagination and the discipline to chase that worthy ideal. It tells us defining your own path and committing is the biggest predictor of real fulfillment.
So as you leave this deep dive, maybe think about this. In a world that, as Tara Gross said, keeps pushing these one-size-fits-all versions of human experience, maybe the most profound success is to fearlessly define your own worthy ideal. Embrace the lessons from every setback, even the painful ones. Use your imagination not just to dream, but to actively create a life that truly reflects your deepest values, that serves your purpose. That's how you move from just being well-informed to being truly well-lived, a life that is authentically yours. So what will your definition of success be starting today? And what's the very first step you'll take to start building it?